Ladies and gentlemen, life is a journey, a long and arduous path, and if you're fortunate enough, you'll make it to old age. But here's the thing, reaching old age isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving, about maintaining your dignity, your clarity of thought, and your ability to live with purpose. And one of the most crucial decisions you'll make in your later years, perhaps even more important than financial security or physical health, is deciding who you allow into your life. Because not everyone who is with you in youth should accompany you into old age. Not everyone who shares your blood shares your best interests, and not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. There are people, even within your own family, who will drain you, manipulate you, and strip away your peace if you let them. So today we're going to talk about the 8 types of people you must avoid in old age, no matter how close they once were. This isn't about cruelty, it's about wisdom. It's about self-respect. It's about ensuring that the years you have left are filled with meaning, not regret. Here, let's get into it. People who constantly complain are not merely expressing frustration. They are engaged in a habitual, deeply ingrained pattern of negativity, profoundly draining. These individuals seem to have a problem for every solution, always focusing on what's wrong rather than what's right. As you age, your energy becomes one of your most valuable resources. You must guard it, because the older you get, the more you realize that your mental well-being is directly tied to the company you keep. The constant complainer operates from a mindset of perpetual dissatisfaction. They rarely acknowledge the good in their lives, no matter how much they have. Even when life presents them with opportunities or blessings, they find ways to diminish them by pointing out the flaws. A sunny day might be too hot. A great meal might be a little too salty. A kind gesture from someone else might be met with suspicion, as though there must be a hidden agenda behind it. These individuals live in a world where nothing is ever enough. And if you allow them into your space in your old age, they will project this dissatisfaction onto you. At first, it might not seem like a big deal. You might even feel sympathetic towards them. After all, life can be difficult, and everyone needs to vent from time to time. But the problem with habitual complainers is that they are not looking for solutions. They are looking for validation of their misery. They don't want to hear encouragement or advice. They want an audience for their grievances. And if you're not careful, you might become that audience, someone they turn to again and again, dumping their negativity onto you like a weight you never agreed to carry. One of the most insidious aspects of constant complaining is how contagious it can be. Human beings are wired to mirror the emotional states of those around them. If you spend enough time with someone who always sees the worst in every situation, you may find yourself adopting a similar outlook. You might start noticing more flaws in your own life, focusing more on what's missing instead of appreciating what's there. It happens subtly, often without you realizing it, until one day you wake up and feel drained, unmotivated, and burdened by a sense of dissatisfaction that was never truly yours to begin with. In old age, maintaining a positive and peaceful mindset is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Stress and negativity take a real toll on your health. Studies have shown that chronic stress contributes to inflammation, weakens the immune system, and accelerates aging. When you are older, your body does not recover as quickly from stress as it once did. And emotional burdens manifest physically, leading to fatigue, digestive issues, joint pain, and even cognitive decline. Constant exposure to negativity, especially in the form of relentless complaining, is like slowly poisoning yourself over time. Another issue with constant complainers is their tendency to drain your emotional reserves. Every conversation with them feels like an obligation rather than an enjoyable interaction. Instead of leaving a conversation feeling uplifted or intellectually stimulated, you feel exhausted. They don't just talk about their problems, they immerse themselves in them, going in circles without ever seeking resolution. And if you try to offer solutions, they will dismiss them outright because they are not looking for change. They are looking for company in their misery. These individuals often lack gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful mindsets a person can cultivate, especially in later years. It shifts the focus from what's missing to what's present, from scarcity to abundance. But a habitual complainer resists gratitude at every turn. They take things for granted, rarely acknowledging the efforts of others, and often making those around them feel unappreciated. If you are someone who values gratitude, spending time with such a person can feel deeply frustrating because no matter how much you give, it will never be enough to satisfy them. Complainers also have a way of subtly shifting the dynamics of a relationship. Over time, you may find yourself in a one-sided arrangement where you are always the listener, the emotional support system, while they contribute nothing positive in return. They rarely ask about your well-being or express genuine concern for your challenges. Their world revolves around their own problems, and they expect others to revolve around them too. In a healthy relationship, there is a balance, a give and take. But with a chronic complainer, the balance is entirely skewed. There is also a deeper, often unspoken impact of surrounding yourself with complainers. They reinforce a passive approach to life. Complaining is easy. It requires no action, no courage, no effort. It allows a person to avoid responsibility by blaming circumstances, other people, or the universe itself. And if you're around this kind of mindset long enough, it can erode your own sense of agency. It can make you feel like a victim of life rather than an active participant in it. In your later years, your time is more valuable than ever. Every moment spent with someone who drains your spirit is a moment lost. Time that could have been spent in peace, in joy, in meaningful reflection. You have the right to protect your energy, to choose who you allow into your space. Recognizing the impact of constant complainers is not about being unkind. It is about being wise. Manipulative takers are people who only come to you when they need something. They may disguise their intentions under the pretense of care and affection, but their true purpose is always to extract something from you, be it your time, energy, resources, or emotional support. These individuals are often charming and persuasive, skilled at making you feel needed, but beneath their words and actions lies a pattern of selfishness. As you age, it becomes even more crucial to recognize these patterns because your ability to give, whether financially or emotionally, is not limitless. These individuals are experts at making their needs seem urgent and important. They frame their problems in a way that makes you feel as though it is your responsibility to step in and help. They may guilt trip you, reminding you of past favors or playing on your emotions by emphasizing how much they are struggling. They know exactly what buttons to press, what words to use, and how to position themselves as victims in need of your support. Over time, this creates an unhealthy dynamic where they become the takers and you, without realizing it, become their endless source of supply. What makes manipulative takers particularly dangerous is that their manipulation is often subtle. Unlike outright scammers or obvious exploiters, these people present themselves as loved ones, friends, or even well-meaning acquaintances who just need a little help. They might start with small requests, borrowing money here, asking for a favor there, but over time, their demands increase. Before you know it, they have embedded themselves in your life, constantly taking while offering little to nothing in return. One of the most insidious tactics they use is making you feel obligated. They might remind you of the times they were there for you, even if those instances were minor compared to what they now expect from you. They may invoke family ties, implying that because you are related, you have a duty to support them no matter what. They might even use flattery, telling you how kind and generous you are, subtly reinforcing the idea that your role is to give, while theirs is to receive. Manipulative takers are particularly drawn to older individuals because they often perceive them as more vulnerable. They assume that you might be more trusting, more willing to help, or perhaps more susceptible to emotional appeals. They exploit the natural desire many people have to be useful and needed, making it seem as though your support is crucial to their well-being. But the truth is, they are not looking for a genuine relationship. They are looking for an opportunity. Another tactic they use is inconsistency. They may disappear from your life for long periods only to reappear when they need something. During these times, they may act overly affectionate, calling or visiting more frequently, making you feel valued, until their true intention emerges. Once they have gotten what they wanted, their presence fades again, leaving you wondering if the relationship was ever real to begin with. These individuals also have a way of making their needs seem more important than your own. They may downplay your struggles, dismiss your feelings, or make you feel selfish for setting boundaries. If you try to say no, they might act hurt or offended, twisting the situation so that you end up feeling guilty. They are skilled at turning the tables, making you question whether you are being unfair when, in reality, they are the ones who have been taking advantage of your kindness. Their demands are rarely straightforward. Instead of asking for something directly, they might hint at their struggles, waiting for you to offer help. They may exaggerate their difficulties, making their problems seem insurmountable without your assistance. They create a sense of urgency, making you feel as though if you don't step in, something terrible will happen. This manufactured pressure can make it hard to think clearly, leading you to act out of impulse rather than careful consideration. Manipulative takers often lack gratitude, even if they express thanks in the moment. It is often superficial and short-lived. They may quickly return with another request, as if what you have already given was never enough. They operate with a sense of entitlement, believing that because you have helped them once, you should continue helping indefinitely. They rarely acknowledge the toll their demands take on you, focusing only on what they can gain. Over time, these relationships become exhausting. Instead of feeling enriched by your interactions, you feel drained, used, and unappreciated. The imbalance in the relationship becomes increasingly apparent, but by the time you recognize it, you may already feel trapped. The longer you allow these patterns to continue, the harder it becomes to break free, especially if the manipulative taker is someone close to you. There is also the financial aspect to consider. As you age, you may be more cautious about your resources, wanting to ensure stability for yourself. Manipulative takers, however, do not share this concern. They may ask for money under the guise of a loan, promising to pay it back, but never following through. They may convince you to cover expenses for them, always coming up with reasons why they cannot handle it themselves. If you are not careful, their repeated requests can lead to significant financial strain, leaving you with less for your own needs. It is important to recognize that not everyone who asks for help is a manipulator. There are genuine people who face difficulties and may occasionally need assistance. The difference is in the pattern. A true friend or loved one values reciprocity and respects boundaries. And a manipulative taker, on the other hand, takes advantage of kindness, seeing generosity as an opportunity rather than a gift. Jealous underminers are among the most toxic people you can have in your life, especially in old age when peace and stability should be your priority. These individuals are not openly hostile, nor do they always express their resentment outright. Instead, their jealousy seeps through in subtle, calculated ways, undermining your confidence, belittling your achievements, and attempting to plant doubt in your mind about your own worth. Their goal is not to confront you directly, but to slowly erode your sense of self, making you question the happiness and success you have earned. What makes jealous underminers particularly dangerous is that they often disguise their negativity under the pretense of concern or casual remarks. They do not usually attack directly, but instead use passive-aggressive comments, backhanded compliments, or dismissive attitudes to make you feel lesser. If you share a personal success, they might respond with something like, Well, that's nice, but at your age, does it even matter? If you express gratitude for the life you've built, they may remind you of every mistake you've made along the way, diminishing your achievements by focusing on past failures. These subtle jabs accumulate over time, creating an atmosphere where you feel the need to justify your happiness rather than simply enjoy it. Their jealousy often stems from their own dissatisfaction with life. Instead of working to improve themselves, they focus on tearing others down. They resent your achievements because they feel it highlights their own shortcomings. When they see you content, secure, or successful, it reminds them of what they lack. Instead of using that feeling as motivation to better themselves, they turn it outward, attempting to bring you down so they can feel less inadequate. The problem is, this resentment is rarely expressed openly, making it harder to address. Instead, it lingers in their words, their tone, and their actions, creating an undercurrent of negativity that is difficult to escape. These individuals often find subtle ways to sabotage you. If you have a plan or a goal, they will introduce doubt not through direct opposition, but through seemingly innocent concerns. If you want to start a new hobby or travel somewhere, they might say, "Are you sure that's a good idea at your age?" Or, "That's a good idea at your age?" Or, "I heard someone tried that and it didn't go well." Their words are carefully crafted to sound like advice, but their true purpose is to discourage you. They do not want you to grow, to thrive, or to find new joys in life, because it would only deepen their own insecurities. They may also try to turn others against you through gossip and subtle manipulation. Instead of openly criticizing you, they may make small, disparaging remarks about you to mutual acquaintances, planting seeds of doubt in their minds. "I don't know if they're thinking clearly these days," they might say. "I worry about some of the decisions they're making." These comments, though mild on the surface, can have a powerful impact, shaping how others perceive you and creating unnecessary tension in your relationships. Another common tactic of jealous underminers is dismissing or downplaying your struggles. If you express a difficulty, they might respond with, "Oh, you think that's bad. You should hear what I've been through." They do not acknowledge your experiences as valid. Instead, they make every conversation about themselves. When you seek support, they make you feel as though your concerns are trivial, as if you have no right to feel challenged by life because they have had it worse. Over time, this can make you hesitant to share your feelings, pushing you into isolation while they continue to reinforce their own sense of superiority. These individuals also have a way of making you doubt your own reality. If you confront them about their behavior, they will often deny any ill intent. They might say, "I was just joking," or "You're too sensitive." This is a form of gaslighting designed to make you question your perception of events. If they can convince you that you are overreacting, they can continue their undermining behavior without consequences. This manipulation can be especially damaging as it erodes your confidence in your own judgment, making it harder to stand up for yourself in the future. In old age, when self-assurance and inner peace should be your focus, allowing a jealous underminer into your life can be particularly destructive. These individuals thrive on creating doubt, feeding off your insecurities while masking their own. They do not celebrate your happiness. They resent it. They do not support your goals. They subtly work against them. They do not offer genuine companionship. They offer a toxic presence that weighs on your mind and spirit. Recognizing them for what they are is the first step toward preserving your own well-being. Chronic victims are individuals who refuse to take responsibility for their lives, constantly portraying themselves as helpless and blaming others for their misfortunes. They see themselves as perpetual sufferers, always at the mercy of circumstances, other people, or fate itself. No matter what happens, they find a way to position themselves as the ones who have been wronged, and they expect those around them to sympathize, support, and rescue them. In old age, when your energy and emotional resources become even more precious, dealing with such people can be incredibly draining. What makes chronic victims particularly exhausting is that they do not seek real solutions to their problems. They are not interested in taking control of their own lives or making meaningful changes. Instead, they thrive on pity, using their hardships as a way to gain attention and validation. They want others to feel sorry for them, and they expect continuous emotional support without ever making an effort to improve their situation. They may repeatedly come to you with the same complaints, never taking any advice or attempting to change, because solving their problems would mean losing the identity they have built around being the victim. These individuals often manipulate through guilt. They make you feel as though you are obligated to help them, to listen endlessly to their woes, and to take on their burdens as your own. If you ever set boundaries or refuse to get involved, they react as though you are abandoning or being heartless. They know how to frame their suffering in a way that makes others feel responsible for their well-being, even when their struggles are largely self-imposed. They might say things like, "You're so lucky to have had a better life than me," or "Not everyone has it as easy as you," subtly implying that you owe them something because they have suffered more. Chronic victims often rewrite history to fit their narrative. They selectively remember events in ways that cast them as innocent and others as villains. If they had a conflict with someone, they will always portray themselves as the one who was hurt, never acknowledging their own role in the situation. They may hold on to grudges for years, endlessly repeating stories about how they were mistreated, while conveniently leaving out any details that suggest they contributed to the problem. This makes it impossible to have a balanced conversation with them because they are not interested in truth. They are only interested in reinforcing their sense of injustice. Another frustrating trait of chronic victims is their resistance to any form of positivity or encouragement. If you try to offer solutions or suggest a different perspective, they dismiss it outright. They may say things like, "You don't understand," or "It's not that simple," as a way to shut down any attempt to help them move forward. They reject optimism because it threatens their victim identity. If they were to acknowledge that they have control over their circumstances, they would have to take responsibility, and that is something they are unwilling to do. They also drain social interactions by making everything about themselves. No matter what topic is being discussed, they will find a way to shift the conversation back to their struggles. If you share something positive, they might respond with a story about how they have suffered in a similar situation. If someone else is going through a hard time, they will find a way to insert themselves into the narrative, making it about their own pain rather than offering support. Over time, this can make interactions with them feel exhausting and one-sided, as they expect constant attention but rarely give any in return. Financially, chronic victims can also be a burden. Many of them believe that others should take care of them because they have had a harder life. They may frequently ask for money, favors, or assistance, always presenting their situation as dire and urgent. If you help them once, they will come back again, each time with a new crisis that requires your support. They do not see generosity as a gift. They see it as something they are entitled to. And if you ever refuse, they will react with disappointment, resentment, or even anger, as though you have failed them in some way. One of the most damaging aspects of chronic victims is how they impact your mindset. Being around someone who constantly sees themselves as powerless can subtly influence your own thinking. Their negativity can seep into your own outlook, making you more focused on problems rather than solutions. Their endless complaints can create a heavy atmosphere, making it harder to stay optimistic and forward thinking. If you are not careful, their way of seeing the world can start to shape your own, pulling you into a cycle of frustration and helplessness that is difficult to break. Chronic victims also have a way of testing your patience because they are so focused on their own struggles. They rarely acknowledge the difficulties others face. If you ever share your own challenges, they will either dismiss them as insignificant compared to theirs, or use them as an excuse to bring the conversation back to themselves. They do not offer support or empathy. They only seek it for themselves. Over time, this imbalance can create resentment, as you realize that no matter how much you give, it will never be enough to satisfy them. These individuals thrive on the attention they receive from being victims. They need an audience to validate their suffering, and if you allow yourself to become part of that audience, you will find yourself trapped in an endless cycle of complaints, excuses, and self-pity. Their problems will never be solved, not because they can't be, but because they don't want them to be. Negative cynics are people who approach life with a deeply pessimistic and dismissive attitude. They are quick to find flaws, quick to criticize, and quick to assume the worst in every situation. No matter what is happening around them, they have a way of pointing out the negatives, draining the energy from any conversation, and making those around them feel disheartened. As you age, surrounding yourself with these types of individuals can be incredibly damaging, as they sap your motivation, dull your enthusiasm, and create an environment where hope and joy struggle to exist. These individuals often pride themselves on their so-called realism, but in reality, their outlook is not based on truth. It is based on a deep-seated bitterness that colors everything they see. They do not simply acknowledge difficulties, they actively seek them out, focusing only on what is wrong while dismissing anything positive as naive or unrealistic. If you share good news, they will immediately follow it with a reason why it is not as good as it seems. If you express excitement about something, they will tell you why it is likely to fail. Their conversations are filled with complaints, grievances, and sarcastic remarks, making it exhausting to engage with them for any length of time. One of the most dangerous aspects of negative cynics is how they gradually wear down your mindset. At first, their pessimism may seem harmless, even amusing in a sarcastic way. But over time, the constant negativity starts to seep into your own thoughts. You begin to second-guess your optimism, question your ambitions, and hesitate before pursuing anything new because their words linger in your mind. They make doubt feel like wisdom and hope feel like foolishness. If you are not careful, their cynical outlook can become your own, slowly replacing your sense of possibility with a sense of inevitability, that things will go wrong, that people cannot be trusted, that effort is pointless. Negative cynics also have a way of discouraging personal growth. If you express a desire to try something new, whether it is learning a new skill, traveling to a new place, or simply making a lifestyle change, they will immediately respond with skepticism. They might say, "At your age, what's the point?" Or, "That sounds like a waste of time." They dismiss your ambitions as unrealistic, making you feel foolish for even considering them. Instead of encouraging you to embrace life's opportunities, they make you feel as though there is no point in trying. These individuals are also highly judgmental. They are quick to criticize others, constantly pointing out what they believe to be flaws, mistakes, or shortcomings, whether it is family, friends, or even strangers. They always have something negative to say. They view kindness as weakness, optimism as foolishness, and success as undeserved. Their conversations often revolve around tearing others down rather than building themselves up, making it clear that their cynicism is not based on wisdom, but on resentment. Another trait of negative cynics is their resistance to joy. They do not celebrate good moments, they diminish them. If someone is happy, they see it as an opportunity to remind them why they should not be. If an event is enjoyable, they will find a reason why it is not as great as it seems. They are the kind of people who, when watching a beautiful sunset, will comment on how it means the day is ending. Their inability to embrace positivity creates an atmosphere where happiness feels temporary and undeserved, making it difficult for those around them to fully enjoy life's moments. Negative cynics also thrive on complaining. They complain about the government, about the younger generation, about the way things used to be, about the state of the world, and about people in general. While some level of critique is normal, their complaints are relentless and without any intention of change. They do not seek solutions or improvements. They simply want to dwell on problems, reinforcing their belief that everything is getting worse. Over time, this kind of conversation becomes draining, leaving you feeling heavy and uninspired. They also lack gratitude. Instead of appreciating what they have, they focus on what they lack. They take good fortune for granted, dismissing their blessings as insignificant while exaggerating their misfortunes. No matter how much they have, it is never enough. They see life as unfair, but instead of working to change their circumstances or appreciate what they do have, they remain stuck in a cycle of bitterness and dissatisfaction. This lack of gratitude makes them difficult to be around because their energy is one of lack rather than abundance. Another damaging aspect of negative cynics is how they undermine relationships. Because they assume the worst in people, they discourage trust and connection. They may warn you against getting too close to others, insisting that everyone has hidden motives or will eventually let you down. They may even try to turn you against people you care about by planting seeds of doubt, saying things like, I wouldn't trust them if I were you, or they're probably only being nice because they want something. Their constant suspicion and negativity make it difficult to build or maintain meaningful relationships, creating isolation and distrust. Their negativity extends even to themselves. While they are quick to judge others, they also carry a deep sense of dissatisfaction with their own lives. But instead of taking responsibility or seeking to improve, they project their frustrations outward, blaming the world for their unhappiness. This creates a cycle where they are perpetually discontent, always finding something to be bitter about, yet never doing anything to change it. Spending time with negative cynics can leave you feeling exhausted, uninspired, and even pessimistic yourself. Their relentless negativity can make it difficult to remain hopeful about the future, causing you to adopt some of their skepticism without realizing it. The more time you spend around them, the more you risk absorbing their worldview, which can ultimately rob you of the joy, curiosity, and sense of possibility that should define your later years. Self-centered opportunists are individuals who view relationships not as meaningful connections, but as transactions. They assess people based on what they can gain from them, and once they have extracted what they need, they move on without remorse. These individuals have little regard for loyalty, sentiment, or mutual care. They are driven by their own interests, and their involvement in your life is dictated entirely by how useful you are to them. In old age, when your energy and resources should be preserved for those who truly value and respect you, keeping such people in your life can be particularly harmful. One of the defining traits of self-centered opportunists is their ability to mask their true intentions. They often present themselves as friendly, supportive, or even affectionate when it serves their purpose. They may act as though they care, ask about your well-being, and offer assistance when they believe there is something to be gained. But their concern is conditional. If you no longer serve their interests, their attitude toward you will change drastically. They will either distance themselves or become indifferent, making it clear that their presence in your life was never about genuine connection, but what they could extract. These individuals excel at manipulation. They know how to say the right things, play on emotions, and create the illusion of trust. They might flatter you, telling you how much they appreciate you, how important you are to them, or how they could not manage without you. But beneath these words is an agenda. They are not expressing appreciation. They are securing their access to whatever it is they want from you, be it financial help, resources, connections, or emotional support. The moment they no longer need you, their words will lose warmth. Their interactions will become transactional, and they will shift their focus to someone else who can offer them something more. One of their most damaging qualities is their sense of entitlement. Self-centered opportunists often believe that others owe them something. They may expect financial support, favors, or assistance without ever considering the effort or sacrifices involved on your part. If you hesitate to give them what they want, they may attempt to guilt you, reminding you of past times they were there for you, even if those times were also motivated by self-interest. They do not see generosity as a kindness, but as an obligation. And if you do not meet their expectations, they will react with disappointment or even resentment. They also have a tendency to insert themselves into your personal affairs, especially when they see an opportunity to if you come into money, they will suddenly be interested in your financial decisions, offering unsolicited advice that often serves their own interests. If you own valuable assets, they may subtly suggest that you should consider sharing, loaning, or even transferring ownership of something to them. If you are experiencing a crisis, they may pretend to be supportive, but only to gain insight into how they can turn the situation to their advantage. Self-centered opportunists have little patience for relationships that do not serve them. If someone in their life ceases to be useful, they will quickly become indifferent toward them. They do not maintain friendships out of loyalty, nor do they invest in relationships for the sake of connection. Instead, they are constantly calculating who can offer them the most value. This makes them unreliable and untrustworthy because their allegiance shifts depending on what benefits them the most at any given moment. Their opportunism extends beyond individuals and into situations. If there is an event, inheritance, or change in circumstances that they can take advantage of, they will not hesitate to position themselves in a way that benefits them. They may act as though they are deeply involved or invested in a situation, when in reality they are only looking for an angle that serves their personal interests. They are quick to align themselves with people in power, attach themselves to those with resources, and abandon anything that no longer benefits them. These individuals also have a way of justifying their behavior. If they are confronted about their self-serving nature, they will often respond with excuses, claiming that they are simply looking out for themselves or that everyone does it. They rarely feel guilt or remorse because they see their actions as necessary for survival. They may even try to convince you that you are being selfish for not wanting to help them, twisting the situation so that they appear as the victim rather than the one exploiting the relationship. Another frustrating quality of self-centered opportunists is their selective involvement in your life. They will be present when things are going well and there is something to gain, but when you truly need support, they will be nowhere to be found. If you are facing difficulties, they may distance themselves because you are no longer an asset to them. They do not invest in relationships that require effort, nor do they offer support unless there is something in it for them. Their loyalty is an illusion, disappearing the moment the benefits dry up. Because they are so focused on their own gain, self-centered opportunists rarely develop deep, meaningful relationships. Their connections are shallow, based on utility, rather than genuine affection or care. They do not truly invest in others, nor do they consider how their actions affect those around them. Over time, this becomes evident as their pattern of behavior emerges. People come and go from their lives. Relationships are transactional, and their priorities shift depending on what is most advantageous for them at the time. Being around such individuals can lead to deep disappointment and exhaustion. You may find yourself constantly questioning whether their words and actions are genuine or simply a means to an end. You may notice that interactions with them feel draining, as though you are constantly being evaluated for your usefulness rather than appreciated for who you are. Over time, their behavior can erode your trust in others, making it difficult to distinguish between genuine relationships and those based on self-interest. Must be